They say love is blind and lovers cannot see, so maybe that's why contestants didn't see all of these red flags on Love is Blind Season 2.
Oh my god.
Shayne mistakes Natalie for Shaina. The two seemed to form an instant connection in the pods, and spoiler alert, Natalie ultimately accepts Shayne's proposal. However, throughout the season, Natalie turned a blind eye on some major red flags. And let's start with the most obvious, when he mistakenly thought Natalie was Shaina in the pod. I'll set the stage. Natalie and Shayne enter the pods, and Shayne asked,
"Who am I talking to?"
I don't know, take a guess.
No, Shaina, there we go.
What?
Natalie was noticeably confused and heartbroken, and we all felt the cringe as she walked out shattered. Shayne gaslights and Natalie insults. The amount of gaslighting that comes from Shayne is nauseating, and Natalie's love language is sarcasm. Shayne's extroverted personality and the explosive way he defended himself was not the best match for Natalie's playful banter. One of the main examples that come to mind is when Shayne and Natalie are supposed to be having a nice, romantic dinner. It starts off solid, but quickly takes a turn when Natalie's sarcasm comes to the forefront again. And apparently she doesn't say she loves Shayne as enthusiastically as he wanted her to. She finds herself having to stand her ground and explain why he shouldn't take offense to what she says or doesn't say.
It's just like not my style.
Shayne's temper eventually boils over and he gets up from the table. We watch as he takes the win from Natalie's sales with him, and she's left at the dinner table alone wondering what she did wrong. Shaina, more like ShaiNO. Another contestant on the show that has quite the laundry list of red flags is Shaina. From ripping shots of whiskey before meeting the man she agreed to marry, to trying to sabotage another couple's relationship because hers didn't go as planned. Shaina is the definition of chaos. She accepts the proposal from Kyle, a man who was not her first choice, and even accepts his mother's engagement ring.
Yes.
And nothing says "I do" more than running to your first choice and confessing your love to him first. We'll get into more of that love triangle in a little bit. It's also not very comforting that she immediately starts her confessional after saying yes in tears of regret, comparing this engagement to a failed one she had in the past.
I just don't want to make another mistake.
Shaina leaving their vacation in Mexico on night 1 should have been enough for Kyle to jump ship.
I'm very lucky.
Shake says he only dates blondes. We can't talk about red flags and not talk about Shake Chatterjee.
Latina vibes over there. Yeah, what's your size? Will I have trouble picking you up?
The most alarming red flag might be the fact that one of the first things he said to Deepti, knowing full well that she's Indian, is that he has only ever seriously dated blondes.
My serious relationships, they've all been blonde.
Oh, really? Okay.
So clearly his preferred partner is very much based on physical attraction. Hello, Shake. The show is literally called Love is Blind. Did you completely ignore the fact that it's designed to match people based on personality alone?
You like what you like, right? I mean, you know.
This becomes extremely problematic when he barrels full speed ahead and chooses Deepti despite his shallow desires. If at first you don't succeed, propose to the next girl? Jarrette isn't off the hook in the red flag department. We have to talk about the whole proposing to 2 women thing. The whole fact that Jarrette proposed to Mallory first, and then when she said no, he went out and cried so hard. I mean, so hard that he had to get a bath towel to wipe his tears off of his entire face. The men had an intervention of sorts on the couches outside the pods to help him regroup, so there's already a red flag on the field. But what does he do? Not admit defeat and leave the show. Oh no, not Jarrette. He dusts himself off and gets right back in there and proposes to Iyanna.
Today it might be Mallory, tomorrow it might be Iyanna.
Although he did stress to her that he didn't want her to feel like his second choice, even though she totally was. Iyanna was a tad hesitant, but she eventually said yes. It was weird on all accounts, and if this were football, there would be some sort of penalty, I am sure of it. Mallory and Jarrette's conversation in Mexico. If watching Jarrette turn around and propose to someone that wasn't Mallory wasn't awkward enough, watching the two of them flirt and argue in front of everybody in Mexico most certainly was. They sat very close at the bar together, their feet practically touching. Jarrette pressed Mallory if she was happy with Salvador. Mallory left the door open by saying she wasn't determined to marry Salvador by the end of the experience.
This is crazy.
Jarrette took the bait and tried his luck with her again by pointing out how Salvador didn't even get the kind of engagement ring she wanted. Mallory once shared with Jarrette that she wanted a gold engagement ring, but Salvador got her a silver one. This all took place in earshot of Iyanna and Sal while he turned into a blubbering mess in his interview with producers.
But I know that she's not interested in me.
Kyle was the second choice. Picking the wrong person seemed to be a trend on this show because Shaina did it too. Remember that love triangle we promised you about? It's more like a love rectangle. Here goes. In the pods, Shaina and Shayne also had a connection. Their connection was more of a quick romance than the deeper connection Shayne had with Natalie.
I just want to focus on us, and that's it, really.
Right after Kyle proposes to Shaina, she turns right around and heads to a pod with Shayne, where she confesses her true love for him, despite being newly engaged and all the while swirling Kyle's mom's engagement ring around her finger while she does it. But when Shaina finally expresses her feelings to Shayne, he tells her it's too late. He'd already chosen to propose to Natalie, who remained none the wiser to the entire situation. The whole thing was a mess, and it remains a major sticking point for Shaina throughout the rest of the show. Every convo Nick and Danielle have ends in a fight. If you thought Nick and Danielle were getting out of this scot-free, you thought wrong. Oh, Nick and Danielle, a couple who at first appear like they've got it all together, are arguing almost immediately after being released from the pods.
It doesn't shock me at all.
In fact, the first cracks in Nick and Danielle's relationship begin to show in Mexico when they have their first fight. They seem fundamentally different from one another. Nick likes things neat and tidy and is a little bit more straight edge, whereas Danielle is more juvenile in her ways, admitting to him that she's a rock band enthusiast and leaves the drum set sitting out in her living room. It seems like he was always trying to get Danielle to change who she was, or as if she needed saving. A conversation they have in her apartment about how different they are, all while wearing hot dog costumes, leaves Nick visibly upset and storming out of the room while trying to rip it off. A shake wait for Shake states. In the very first episode, Shake asks one of the women if she works out. When she replies that she isn't big on working out, Shake says,
Ooh, I get along best with individuals that do work out.
"We aren't even 15 minutes into the entire show, my guy, and you are already trying to gauge if you will be attracted to them physically." Then he asks Deepti if she would be able to sit on his shoulders at a music festival. Who does that? Kyle says vegetarian no more. Here's a big red flag that went a little under the radar. Kyle tries so hard to make his relationship with Shaina work that he abandons his core values for her. Kyle was a vegetarian for 8 years, and on their honeymoon in Mexico, he says he will eat meat just for Shaina. And instead of Shaina trying to stop him from doing it, her response is,
Oh my god, ew. You need to eat meat.
Perhaps it was Shaina seeing how far he'd go for her, because this isn't the last time Kyle self-abandons simply to please her in the show. We have to talk about Sal's ex. There's something about Sal's ex showing up at his house during filming that was glossed over in the show, and it didn't sit right with us, or Mallory. Something tells us Sal wasn't being very honest about the situation. Salvador says he went out on one date with a woman before the show. Sal took to Instagram on Monday, February 28th, to address the issue. He said in the now-deleted video, "We would hang out until I'd hear back from the Love is Blind team." But she then allegedly turns up at his home, upset about his new relationship. Would someone you go on one date with do that? Smells fishy to me. And it definitely rocked the chemistry between Mallory and Sal afterwards. Shaina still has feelings for Shayne. And talking about lingering feelings, we're back to talking about Shaina, the red flag that keeps on giving. She still has feelings for Shayne. Here's the quick recap. Shaina left Kyle high and dry in Mexico. Some speculate it's because she didn't want to see Shayne so soon. But in an interview with Women's Health, she claims it was because she needed guidance from her family. Anyways, she and Kyle meet up in Chicago later on to discuss their future. He said he's willing to compromise his beliefs because he loves her so much. She admits to the cameras,
I chose Kyle. I said yes to Kyle. But I can't stop thinking about Shayne.
Meet Shake's aunt Deepti. We guess there were some times where Shake seemed to be making a breakthrough and actually turning into a nice guy. Sometimes it even looked like he and Deepti had chemistry. But boy, we were wrong. Shake repeatedly and loudly proclaims to anyone who'll listen that he's not attracted to Deepti in any way. He convinces her to take things slow while he works on his attraction to her, but really just talks to everyone, including his own mother, and how unattracted he is to her.
She reminds me so much of my aunt.
Are you a godly man, Kyle? Shaina and Kyle each have extreme views on religion. Shaina's religion is an important factor for her that she brings up again when they first meet. And it all seems to come to a head when she takes Kyle to the lion's den that is her family. Her brothers take turns asking him questions. When one asks him,
Do you believe in, Christ?
Oh, no, I don't.
Shaina finally breaks to him she cannot marry him. She needs a husband who's able to spiritually lead her, and Kyle is clearly not that man. Nick sweating bullets at the altar. The pair left the Netflix experiment as husband and wife, but we weren't convinced that they'll last as a couple. His homemade deodorant didn't cut it the day of their wedding because the amount of sweat pouring off of Nick as he stood at the altar didn't make him look like a guy who was confident in the decision he was about to make. While they do have love for each other, the amount of arguing and second-guessing from both of them up until the wedding day is a recipe for disaster. And as much as they both tried to hide their insecurities on the day of the wedding, Nick's body physically showed his discomfort with the decision. But to quote Shaina,
It's true love. Time reveals all truth.
which couples do you think had the most red flags? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to The Things Reality for all the latest reality news and gossip.